One question I get a lot is how much of Scrabble is luck and how much of Scrabble is skill? And the simple answer that I give to that question is assuming similarly skilled opposition, about 25% of the time, a quarter of the time, your tiles will be so good that you essentially cannot lose the game unless you're trying to. And another 25% of the time, your tiles will be so bad that you cannot win no matter how hard you try. Not even Nigel could find a way to win with such terrible tiles. So that leaves 50% of games where you should theoretically have at least some pathway to winning the game. And let's look at Nigel's winning percentage and see if that stacks up with this theory. So you can see it's over 73%, not quite 74%. Very, very close to the 75% we would expect to see, which suggests that this theory, though obviously highly oversimplified, might actually still be kind of close to correct. The better you are at Scrabble, the more of these middle 50% of games that you can win. But Scrabble games right at the edge of the winnable section, bordering on unwinnable, tend to be fascinating. Because in this final 1%, you're probably going to have to do something very special or out of the ordinary to win. I've had a handful of games like that in my career, and I played a game recently that might not quite be in that 1%, but I was still pretty happy with figuring out a pathway to victory. This was just a casual game, not a tournament game, from a practice session using the North American word list with some local players, including my friend Ed Roth, a strong expert player. So let's get into it. I go first and draw low point tiles, but do not have a bingo, so I exchange NOT. Playing not or ton would also be fine, but the NO and T are all decent bingo tiles for Ed to play through with 8-letter words, and almost any 7-letter word is still going to fit after these plays as well. Ed plays jog, which gives me one of the tiles I need to play an 8 as I bingo with Ignatius. I dodge a bullet too when Ed plays tis, since all he would need is a 3-letter Z word to hit me much harder on the triple, and I get to use the open spot myself to play oped. After a couple more cat and mouse moves, Ed bingos with Shriller to retake the lead. Meanwhile, I have a good mix of vowels and consonants spoiled by the Q. I can play dribs for 33, using up the very strong scoring spot to the triple and setting up a decent place to dump my Q next turn. Or I can play chi for 15, getting rid of the Q now and crippling the scoring spot. Instead, I just dump my Q for 10 points, keeping bridle, because so many of the tiles to come will give me a bingo next turn. Column J is rarely getting blocked with much better scoring spots available, and if Ed draws an I and underlaps the Q for a strong score, column D will stay open for me as well. Instead, I get even luckier than that, as Ed has to dump VU with Vuln, and I draw an N for Brindle to get back in the game. But it's short-lived, as Ed makes the excellent find of Bushman to stay ahead. I answer with Yahoo to dump vowels and score decently, but after Ed's Derby, the board is closing down. I'm sorely tempted to play Mewing to open the board, but I decide to stay patient and wait for a better opportunity by just playing Mew. My EGINT leave is strong in theory, but not so much on this tight board. Ed plays Mobile for 27 without opening anything dangerous, and now I'm facing this position. I have a few different options here. I could play Doges to the ES and open some more lanes, but Ed will be strongly compelled to block them as the only major threat left on the board. Drawing the last S looks like it's really important for me to eventually threaten bingos hooking Mews, but I'd like to try to create some winning scenarios where I don't have to draw the S. Plays hooking ow, like do, can help me open up the board, but once again, Ed is going to be highly motivated to block my new openings. But at this point, I get an idea. If I play to instead of do, keeping the D instead of the T, I have a decent chance of drawing a few really important combinations. First, if I draw the valuable final S, I can also draw an E or an R with it, which will allow me to play designers or designees for 90 points. But I can also draw a T from the bag, which is actually somewhat likely given the 4 A's and 3 T's remaining. This will give me designate for the same score, and after 2, Ed's never going to block down there with the much more threatening end column wide open after my play. So I trust my gut and go with 2. And amazingly, I draw a T from the bag, just as I had hoped. Ed plays Fats, going up by 63, and likely reasoning that if I manage to bingo with my newly created lane, it'll score something like 70 or 75 points, and he'll just hammer the triple word score in response and maintain his lead. But instead, I play my 90-point designate, and now I've got a couple different paths to victory. I'll need some luck to dodge a big play through that E, which is in a really dangerous spot. But if I do, I could draw another bingo down column N to cement the victory. Or perhaps Ed won't be able to score well there, and I can just outscore my way to a win from here. Fortunately for me, Ed is overrun with vowels, and he underlaps designate with unis for 28, going up by 1 point, but I breathe a sigh of relief that it wasn't much worse. Although I've drawn clunky tiles, they'll score well, and I can see from the unseen tiles that Ed is not likely to have a bingo, with only orifice remaining as a playable 7-letter word. So I play veg for 28 to block high-scoring plays in the upper left corner, leaving only 1 tile in the bag, which will often give me an advantage in the endgame. And once I draw the F, I'm essentially home free, as Ed can no longer have orifice, and I have 2 very solid scoring plays ready for next turn. After his Codea, I play fakes for 36, and his outplay of woe isn't quite enough, as I win 415 to 398. I was pretty happy to find a way to win this game without drawing the final S, and computer analysis really likes my play of 2, giving it a significant edge over any other candidate option. Even in casual play, finding these tricky pathways to victory in difficult games is one of the joys of playing Scrabble. That's it for today, so if you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing to the channel. It really helps me out. Also, I'm considering turning this Tales from the 1% into a series, but only if enough people really like it. So if you enjoyed the idea and the execution, let me know in the comments if you'd like to see more. Thanks for watching.